I never thought I'd be the guy to end up in a situation like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. We met when I was in my late 20s and she was a few years younger. At first, everything seemed perfect. We had our routine, our little jokes, and I genuinely believed I knew her inside out. But as the last year rolled on, I started noticing small things that didn't add up, her being secretive, her phone always locked, and her avoiding me during certain parts of the day. I thought maybe she was just stressed at work or dealing with some personal stuff. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Our anniversary was coming up, and I'd been planning a small dinner, just us. I was excited, thinking about how far we'd come and what the future might hold. But in the week leading up to it, I started getting suspicious. Lisa was acting off. She'd leave her phone around me more often, but then quickly lock it or hide it if I came into the room. She'd come home late from work and say she was stuck in meetings, but her stories started sounding more and more rehearsed. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just under pressure, or maybe I was paranoid. One night I decided to do a quick check on her phone out of sheer instinct. I know, trust is supposed to be the foundation, but after feeling this gnawing doubt for months, I just couldn't help myself anymore. I picked up her phone while she was in the shower, and what I found chilled me to the bone. Hidden in her gallery, tucked away in a folder I'd never seen before, were messages, flirty, suggestive texts. Not just friendly banter, but outright sexual comments and emojis, even a few pictures of her in bed with someone else. The guy was clearly her boss, Mark, from work. The messages weren't just innocent texts, they read like they were planning something, and the tone was so intimate, so obvious, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I'd trusted with everything, was cheating on me with her boss. They'd been lying straight to my face for months. I scrolled through the messages, my hands trembling. How could she have done this? How long had she been planning to leave? I felt a surge of anger, betrayal, and deep sadness all at once. I stared at the screen, trying to process what I'd just found, wondering if this was just a fling or something more. I knew I had to confront her soon, but I wasn't sure if I was prepared for what was coming. The whole world suddenly felt off-kilter, like everything I believed in was a lie. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was tied up in knots. I kept staring at my phone, debating whether I should just leave it alone or confront her immediately. But I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I had to face her, get some answers, and figure out what the hell was really going on. Lisa was still asleep when I got up. She'd been acting weird lately, so I figured I'd catch her in a lie if I pushed her too hard. I decided to wait until she was awake and see how she'd react. When she finally rolled over and looked at me with that fake smile she always threw on in the mornings, I felt my blood boil. I took a deep breath and decided to just open up. Lisa, I started, my voice a little shakier than I wanted it to be. I saw your messages, the ones with Mark, the ones you didn't think I'd find out about. Her eyes widened for a split second, then she quickly composed herself. She sat up, her face turning icy, and gave me that "I'm so innocent" look. Mike, I don't know what you're talking about, she said, her voice dripping with annoyance. You're jumping to conclusions. Those messages are nothing, just some flirtatious banter. Honestly, you're overreacting, you're paranoid. I couldn't believe her. She was lying right to my face again. I showed her the phone, the photos, the texts. She snatched it from my hands, pretending to look surprised, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. Her lips trembled, and she looked like she was trying to come up with some excuse. It's not what it looks like, she said, her voice cracking slightly. Maybe it's just a joke, or maybe someone's messing with us. I swear I don't know what you're talking about. Mark is just a colleague and we've been working late sometimes, that's all. I snapped back, feeling my anger rising. Late meetings, that's your excuse. Come on, Lisa, I found the messages, the suggestive stuff, the plans, the way you talk to him like he's your everything. What are you really doing? Are you planning to leave me for him? Her face went pale for a second, then she scoffed. Leave you, please. You're overthinking everything. I love you. You've got it all wrong. Mark's just a boss, and I have no idea why you're making such a big deal out of this. But I saw through her lies. She was trying to gaslight me, to make me doubt what I'd seen. I knew then that I wasn't going to get the truth from her easily. The cracks in our marriage were visible, and the betrayal was so deep I didn't even know if I could come back from it. But I also knew I couldn't just walk away without more answers. That day I felt a mix of rage and despair. I kept replaying those texts in my head, trying to understand how I missed all the signs. How had I been so blind? I'd given her everything, my love, my trust, and she'd been sneaking around behind my back with her boss, planning her escape. The thought that she might be leaving me for someone else, someone like Mark who probably thought he was so clever, made my stomach turn. I started making a mental list of what I was going to do next. I had to know the full story. And honestly, I wasn't about to let her walk away that easy. If she wanted to leave, she was going to have to do more than just lie her way out of it. After that confrontation, things only got messier. Lisa acted like nothing had changed, like I hadn't just caught her red-handed trying to deny everything. But I knew better. She was trying to gaslight me, pretending she was innocent, as if I was the crazy one for thinking there was something going on. I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I needed a plan, something to make her see that I was just some fool she could manipulate. That night I started digging deeper. I went through her phone again, this time more carefully, looking for anything I might have missed. I found messages from Mark that were even more explicit, talking about meeting up, about finally doing it, and how much they both wanted to get away. I also discovered that she'd been deleting some of the texts, probably trying to hide the worst. That made me madder. The lies, the secrecy, they all pointed to a serious betrayal. I realized she'd been planning this for months, probably since the last big project at work. She'd been sneaking around, lying every step of the way, and I'd been so blind I didn't see it. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to catch her in the act. So I set up a little trap. I planted a hidden camera in the living room, the kind of thing I'd seen on some true crime shows, so I could record her if she tried to sneak out or meet him again. I didn't trust her to tell the truth, and honestly, I wanted to see her real reaction when she realized. I wasn't going to just accept her lies anymore. That night, I stayed silent, my heart pounding in my chest as I waited for her to slip up. The camera would do the rest. Sure enough, around midnight, Lisa got a text. I watched from my phone as she quietly slipped out of bed, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. She hesitated for a second, looking around like she was afraid of being caught, then slipped out into the night. I pressed record, not knowing what I was going to see, but knowing that whatever it was going to change everything. I felt this strange mix of relief and dread, relief that I was finally starting to see the truth, and dread about what that truth might be. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. It was exactly what I suspected. She met up with Mark at a nearby hotel, and they didn't even bother to hide it. They were kissing, touching, acting like they had the perfect secret. Watching her in that moment, I felt like I'd been punched again. It was worse than just reading the texts. Seeing her actually do it, seeing her betray me face to face made everything so raw. I'd always thought she was better than that, smarter than that. But no, she'd been lying this whole time, planning her escape with her boss while I was at home thinking we were building a future together. I was furious, but also heartbroken. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That night I sat her down, showing her the footage, the messages, everything I'd uncovered. Her face twisted into a sneer. "You're crazy," she spat, her voice dripping with contempt. "You've got no proof, and even if you did, what does it matter? We're done anyway. I'm leaving, Mike. I don't want to be with someone who's so paranoid and insecure." Her words hit me hard, harder than the betrayal. She was ready to walk away, to throw away 5 years of marriage like it was nothing. And for what? Some stupid affair with her boss, some affair that, in her eyes, justified her leaving. As much as I wanted to explode, I kept my composure. I knew I needed to get out of that moment with my dignity intact, but inside I was shattered. The woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me back, was gone. She'd been planning her escape for months, and I was just left holding the pieces of a life I thought was solid. I felt numb, like I'd been punched in the gut 100 times over. The betrayal ran so deep I didn't know if I'd ever recover from it. All I could think about was how I was going to pick myself up from this, how I was going to move on once I had some clarity. But one thing was clear. Whatever I thought I knew about her was nothing compared to what I just uncovered. Over the next few days, everything felt like some messed up nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The truth was out, and I couldn't pretend anymore that I didn't know what Lisa was really up to. She continued to deny everything, of course, calling me crazy and accusing me of spying and invading her privacy. To her, I was just some paranoid husband overreacting. But I wasn't about to buy into her lies anymore. I started planning my next move. I knew I needed to get her out of the house to make her feel like she had no control. That's when I decided to take a more calculated approach. If she was planning to leave, I wanted her to leave on my terms, not hers. I didn't want her to walk out with a suitcase full of her lies. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore. I also figured she needed a wake-up call, something to make her realize how much she'd hurt me and how serious I was about ending this. One evening, I left a little note on the bedroom mirror. "We need to talk. Let's sit down tonight." She looked annoyed when I said it, but I made it clear I wasn't backing down. When she finally came into the living room, I told her I knew everything, the texts, the meeting, the plan, and that I was done pretending. I told her I wanted her to leave for a while, to give us both space to think. Her face twisted again with that fake anger she always used when she was caught off guard. "You're just being insecure," she said, trying to dismiss it all. I didn't bother arguing, I just told her she could pack her things and go. She huffed, rolled her eyes, and started grabbing clothes, acting like it was no big deal. But I could see it in her eyes, she was scared now. Real fear, not the fake bitchy attitude she always threw around. She knew I had her cornered. I didn't want to humiliate her, but I wanted her to understand that this wasn't just a fling. It was the end of us. I told her she had one night to pack her stuff, and she better stay out of my sight after that. When she finally left that night, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. It was like I'd finally taken control, but at what cost? I'd lost my wife, the woman I thought I knew, and I was left with a hollow feeling inside. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about trust, about what our marriage really meant. Deep down, I knew this was the beginning of the end. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been living a lie all along and that she'd been planning her escape for months. Still, part of me wondered if there was any way back, or if I should just cut my losses and move on. The next morning, I woke up feeling oddly empty. I looked at her side of the bed, cold, untouched, and realized I was free from her lies, but also free from the person I'd thought I was married to. The house felt different, quieter. I decided I needed to start over, to focus on myself for a little while. But I also promised myself that I'd never be that naive again, never let someone betray me so deeply without seeing the signs. I learned a lot about trust, about how people can hide who they really are behind a mask of normalcy. And most of all, I learned that sometimes, the only way to protect yourself is to face the truth head-on, no matter how brutal it might be. In the days that followed, I threw myself into figuring out what life looked like without her. Honestly, it felt like I was waking up from a long, terrible dream. I'd spent so long trying to hold on to the idea of us, believing that somehow love could fix everything. But that illusion shattered the moment I saw her with Mark, the messages, the secret meetings. That was the moment I knew I had to do something radical. I wasn't going to sit around and wait for her to decide my fate anymore. I started going through all the financials, pulling out every bit of proof I could gather to protect myself. I didn't want to be caught off guard if she decided to take everything and run. I reached out to a lawyer just to understand my rights, and I started making arrangements. Honestly, it was a shock to realize how much I'd been blindsided all these years. I thought we had a solid marriage, but behind the scenes she was plotting her escape, and I was completely oblivious. It made me question everything, my judgment, my trust, my ability to see through her lies. Meanwhile, she kept texting me, trying to act like she was innocent, like she was the victim. She call, cry, say she was sorry and that she loved me. But I knew better. Her words meant nothing now. She was only trying to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty, to get me to take her back. She kept insisting she'd never cheat, that it was just a fling, or some stupid mistake. But I'd seen the truth. I'd seen her in that hotel with Mark, heard their secret plans. Nothing she said could undo that, no matter how much she begged or cried. One night, I decided I'd had enough of her lies. I sat her down one last time, told her I'd uncovered everything, her messages, her meetings, her plan to leave me, and that I was done playing her game. I told her she needed to pick a side, stay and work on fixing what was left of our marriage, or leave and never look back. She sneered, calling me a controlling bastard, saying I was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. But I'd lost all trust, lost it the day I found out she'd been lying to my face for months. That was the night she finally snapped. She packed her bags, yelled at me, accused me of being paranoid, and stormed out in tears. For a moment, I thought maybe she'd think about what she'd done and come back, but deep down, I knew she was gone for good. That hurt the most, the realization that the woman I loved had been planning her departure while I was still trying to hold us together. I felt numb, exhausted from all the emotional roller coastering, but at the same time I felt a strange sense of liberation. I finally saw the truth, and I knew I'd never let myself be blind again. Now I'm left here trying to piece my life back together. It's confusing, painful, but also strangely freeing. I've learned that trust is fragile, and some betrayals are so deep they can't be fixed. I know I'll heal in time, but this experience has taught me more about myself than I ever expected. I don't regret uncovering the truth, even if it's been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Because now, I know what real betrayal looks like, and I'll never allow anyone to treat me that way again. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me. I used to believe in fairy tale endings, in the idea that love could conquer everything if you just tried hard enough. But that's not always true. Sometimes people lie, betray you, and leave you feeling completely broken, and you have to be strong enough to face that truth, no matter how much it hurts. Since she left, I've been working on rebuilding myself. I've gone to therapy, talked through everything, and started focusing on stuff I used to ignore: my career, my hobbies, my friends. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever fully forget what happened, but I've learned to accept it. I've learned to stop blaming myself for trusting someone who turned out to be so different from what I thought she was. One thing I know for sure now is that I'll never tolerate that kind of betrayal again. I've realized that my worth isn't defined by someone else's lies or cheating. I'm enough just as I am. That's the biggest lesson I take from all of this. Because if I learned anything, it's this: trust is a gift, and once it's broken, it's damn hard to rebuild. But even in the worst moments, I found a part of myself that refused to give up. So, to anyone out there going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, and don't let yourself be blindsided by someone you thought loved you. It's painful, sure, but there's a light at the end of it. Whatever your situation, know that you're stronger than you think. You'll come out the other side, battered maybe, but wiser. And one day, you'll look back and realize that even from the deepest betrayal, you can find the strength to move forward.